This episode is sponsored by Compassion and Choices. Leading with a health equity lens, Compassion and Choices aims to empower everyone to make informed decisions about end-of-life care. All communities should have the information and resources to chart their end-of-life journey. Motivated by the impact of racism, inequity, and disparities in end-of-life care, they are connecting with people nationwide to spread the word about the importance of end-of-life care planning and accessing quality end-of-life care. Welcome to episode 204, sponsored by Compassion and Choices with the Black Barbers Day. I'm the host, Stephen Starks, Starks Films, Step the Barber, and then my two beautiful guests over here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what we're here for today, and let's dive in.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir.
I'm Dr. DeLon Canterbury. I'm a board-certified geriatric pharmacist and founder of Geriatrics. We focus on helping people figure out the maze of medications, how to reduce harm, and get them off of some unnecessary side effects that may be occurring.
Okay, appreciate that.
And I'm Dr. Gregory Bolden, the Community Initiatives Program Manager for the Center for Black Health and Equity. We do capacity building and education within the community around community health, tobacco use prevention, HIV, cancer, nutrition, women's health, and policy advocacy for the Black community.
Okay.
I'm Stephon Swearingen. A lot of people know me as Step the Barber. I'm a barber here in Atlanta, Georgia. Been a barber for a total of 20 years, but I also just believe in not only the community inside the barbershop and open conversations there, but I believe in the idea of taking those conversations out into the community so that we can affect the community at large.
Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like we have a well-diverse guest here, and we're about to dive into the first question. So, why are we not having this conversation in our community? I took a deep sigh. So why are we not having this conversation? And this is an important topic, advanced care planning. So why are we not having this conversation within the Black community?
Well, we can speak to our own experiences, right? Death is not sexy, right? It's not something we're happy to discuss. It usually is a time of turmoil, frustration, and all these emotions that are coming in. Even honestly, from the clinical setting, we're not always comfortable as providers on even how to have this conversation in a healthy and honestly proactive manner. So apart from that general stigma, most people like us just may not know how to even start the conversation. So really we end up finding out, and you end up reacting to the situation and then trying to problem solve in the moment. So I think there needs to be some improvement for us to address this as a community.
Yeah. You know, we're talking about the community, but we don't even have these conversations in our own homes. And we know that death is inevitable, but we don't have the conversation in our homes. But it's not completely because of us, because of the system and the systematic situations that we've gone through in our lives. We just don't have the information. And so we think that we have to be experts. We think we have to have the perfect language. But the reality of it is that what we need to do is just start the conversation. It's not like calling the family together. Let's have a family meeting. We can begin the conversations one-on-one. Say, hey, do you have a life insurance policy? Mom and them, they got their house, it's paid for. They don't have a lot of money coming in, but what happens if they're no longer here? What happens if they pass on? What's going to happen? So we can actually start the conversation there with just planning. Preparation.
Plan.
Prepare, plan.
Plan and prepare. Yeah.
So if you do that, if you prepare, you plan, you'll actually be set and you'll be ready for the inevitable conversation. So when someone comes, because it doesn't make sense for you to pay for something and have it completely paid off. You don't have the paperwork behind it, and then now you have to go and pay a lawyer, or you have to go through probate, or you have to go find stuff because no one prepared. So just having the conversations one-on-one can start that process.
Yeah, going back to the previous episode that we did, fish fries and funerals, which isn't it's a catchy topic name, but that's what we do in our community. The plan and prepare aspect. We don't have the money, so then we throw a fish fry to try to raise the funds. Like he mentioned, one of the barbers that he knew life was taken short due to unforeseen circumstances, I guess, but however, they tried to raise money and they didn't meet their goal, so what are some of the, what is your outtake on the first question?
Well, so, I'm interacting with the community every day. A lot of people that come in my shop, we don't live in the same suburb of Atlanta, so I get to talk to people from all walks of life. I even have people that travel in from other cities to come and sit in my chair. But I think that, number one, we don't have a lot of us don't have a base knowledge of what advanced care planning is and what it looks like. And there's also an element of it where there's immediate cost without immediate benefit. And I don't know if that's specific to Black folks or if it's like for everybody else too. But a lot of time when people spend their money, they want something in return right now. And so to, get on a payment plan to spend money month after month after month, when the benefit doesn't go to you directly, especially doesn't come for several years, in theory, right? We have to get people to understand the investment and why it's important and how it benefits those who are around you. And then not only that, I think that a lot of times, maybe it's just the way culture is now, but we follow trends. So a few years ago, there was the whole get your credit cleaned up trend. And then there was the real estate, Airbnb, and Turo trend. And so I think that we have to I'd rather it not be a trend. That way it can be long lasting, because those trends come in waves and then they go. But begin to, just try to find a way to start that conversation where it sticks. Like this, I honestly feel like this should be something that is done when we have kids. That's the cheapest time to pay for it. And my oldest daughter, who I got a policy for when she was a newborn, my mother, her grandmother, also got a policy for her when she was a newborn. I didn't even know. And she turned it over to her and said, keep paying on this, and then it'll go to your kids one day when you get married and have kids. So the conversation has to be there. The importance of it has to be there, but then we have to find a way to make it palatable to people so that they understand the importance of it, embrace it, love it, and begin, because we always talk about generational wealth, but we always see it as I have to do something right now to get money right now to pass down to people later. But when you pass away, if they pay your house off, pay your car off, pay for your funeral, even if you've amassed $100,000, $250,000, $300,000, that money's going to get eaten up in credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever debt you leave behind. So that life insurance is very, very important. And you won't be here to see the benefits of it, but your family will.
What you mentioned something really, really important about having the information and the information that's out there. Sometimes, in our community, we may have too much information, and we start not to believe it, or we don't have any information, and we just don't know which way to go. So, there's folks out there who would want to take advantage of you. So it's like, come and get this real quick, and we jump for the get rich quick thing,
right?
Because it shows a benefit. It has a benefit, like supposedly right now, but we don't think about those things down the line because within the Black community, we have a lack of information, or we have a influx of information that's overwhelming. It's like comes from a water hose.
Right.
So
let me ask you this. So if we have an overwhelmingness of certain information, why do you guys feel like this isn't an overwhelming of information that we talk about this particular topic?
Sometimes I think it's fear. We have that fear of death. We have that fear of the unknown. And so we push it aside.
We'll gossip all day.
Oh yeah, but we don't want to talk about this because this is about death. This is about the end of life. It's like we'll let who's ever left take care of this. And so you said, French fries and funerals. Funeral director ain't gonna move until you pay him.
Right.
And
Pretty penny too.
yeah, it's often a pretty penny. I use the analogy of when my mother passed, she had already transferred just about everything she owned to the family members. So when it was time for us to bury her, me and my siblings, we got together, we had to write a small check and it was done. There's a small insurance policy, yeah, but it wasn't overwhelming. No probate, no nothing. It was taken care of. But that's because we had the conversation. So we have to sit down. We have to have the uneasy conversation.
What's a way that we can get this out to the masses? Get this conversation out to the masses in the barbershop to make it something that can just kind of flow off the tongue?
Well, I think that there's a few ways. So usually if somebody walks up on you and tries to sell you something, it makes you grab your wallet. Like, wait a minute now, wait. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a catch to this some kind of way. But I think putting the proper information out there, and let's just be honest, not just in our community, but other communities too, people are trend followers. Everybody at a Beyonce concert or a Taylor Swift concert may not necessarily be a fan, but they don't want to miss out.
True.
And so if you create the conversation and education around it and find some kind of way, I don't know how, we have to brainstorm on that,
We'll figure it out.
of how to make it trendy. Because I remember being in Savannah and some of the guys that I knew, they were in the streets. And I told you about when I bought my first life insurance policy. Really didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that the other barber, I don't know what words we can say on YouTube,
Right.
he's no longer on this side,
Right.
and his family had to do the fish fry
In the funerals.
and the funeral.
In the planning.
And so just so happened a couple weeks later or a week later, the lady came in trying to sell something. So I just bought it because I had a newborn at the time. I was 19. Well, I was 20. I was 20 years old. Bought a policy. Didn't really know what I was getting. I just knew to get whole life instead of term. So that's just what I did. So where I was going with that was, I remember at the time talking to some of the other guys that I knew that were doing things that maybe they shouldn't have been doing, right, in the streets or whatever. And I was saying, bro, if you're gonna be in the streets and you have kids, spend $40 a month on a policy, that way if something happened to you. But it was like they just couldn't spend the $40 a month. And some of them, unfortunately, lost their lives, and it was the same cycle. Fish fry and funeral. And I'm like, why would you not, you know your lifestyle is extra risky. Put the money in there or whatever, so that way your family can be able to take care of you. But now that I'm on the more professional side, like actually being a professional barber, dealing with more professional clientele, the conversations do look different. But also a lot of times, we as a people, I can't say this because I don't think this is always a negative. I don't want to be canceled. We're very private about our finances and our affairs. And so if somebody asks you, do you have a life insurance policy? Sometimes people will lie and say, yeah, when they really don't. Because they don't want to sound like they don't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got life insurance. I got I got all my titles, and they'll tell you their car's paid for when it's not paid for. It's like
A pride thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to be comfortable saying, like I just said, when I got my first policy, I had no idea. I bought like 3 or 4 other policies since that time, paying for them all separate. I ended up getting, I'm not sure what her title is, financial advisor or agent or whatever. She found all my policies I had and found one policy with a company that covered all these different payments that I was paying for all these other different things. But I got one when I was 20, one when I was like 23, 24, I'm 39 now. And she's like, well, all that money you're spending over there for these benefits, you can have a lower payment and get, different benefits in this one place. So you have to be comfortable, which is kind of a personal thing, with saying, man, I really don't know. Yes, I'm 40. Yes, I'm 50. Yes, I'm 27. and I don't know what it is. I don't know the true benefits of it or how it'll benefit me or whatever. Can you teach me? And so sometimes, like how we did, I don't know if we can say the Dior event, but okay, just like how we did the Dior event at my shop, and people came out to get educated about the different face wash and different stuff that's coming out from a designer brand. We just have to find a way, you know, maybe we do it around Father's Day,
holidays.
maybe have some, you know, maybe counterintuitive, but maybe have some whiskey and, you know, some different thing, or just, you know, get the guys together, because if you don't set it aside for yourself, who's going to do it for you?
The key thing I really appreciated with what you shared was how there was a driving moment in your life where something critical happened, whether it be a fellow barber, but you also consider the importance of your daughter's livelihood after I'm gone. And I think that's the problem we find, is it always has to happen to you before you act and take action on that. So apart from having to wait for the roller coaster to drop, you know, when you're able to also show the cost savings of you putting in a little bit here, a little bit there, and then show it, look, I've done this for 10 years. Guess what? My life insurance policy is actually making me money. And that's another conversation we can discuss, is how some of these policies can be used as an investment tool. We don't need to be shackled by the history of what this country has brought us to fight against, you know, this generational stuff. And so sharing that journey, because you did this at 20, like that's phenomenal, first of all. That's brilliant. Like, I'm like thinking about that. I'm thinking about my first kiss, like, you know, like real baby virgin, right? But like low key, that's the power, is the story behind that. I was worried about my daughter, and I had a close person maybe pass. Now I'm taking action. We don't need to wait till the church cookout for this to happen again. So I love that you guys are using this as a platform. When you ask, how do we bring this up? We gotta make this sexy, man. Like we gotta do a TikTok. We gotta do this new trend where we're seeing more of these death doula cafes. They're comfortable ambient spaces, poetry cafes. You can go in. You can have experts trained in death and end of life planning, help you get set up with a healthcare proxy, help you get set up with your advanced directives. These are the terms that we gotta get comfortable knowing, and then making it in a way where it's comfortable. It's you know, it's a setting that's people that has a message that's trusted, that looks like you. That is where the power comes in, you know. And so it maybe takes one or two key people who know all those fancy words. We don't know all those fancy words, but guess what? We know someone who does.
Right.
And when you come with a level of leading with your heart and mind and your community in mind, it becomes a no-brainer. We can make it real cool. TikTok, Dior, you know, dance moves, local rapper, DJ, and then have the theme, let's talk about death. It can happen. And it's happening across the country, which is why, you know, again, I'm grateful for this platform, because this is where it starts, but also having people like Compassion and Choices use this to just educate and just start the conversation. It's just starting the conversation.
But you know what? The other thing is, you can't wait till last minute. This is something you need to at least look at right now and make the first step. It's not something that you're going to be doing, you know, overnight. That's gonna, you know, that you can just sit down and just walk through all of these conversations. Like Doc said, this is something you need to talk to with financial advisors, with prior planners, with doulas. What happens if you become ill and you become incapacitated, or you, God forbid, suffer with dementia, and now you can't, you know, you can't operate for yourself? You need to have these conversations beforehand. The other thing is, you need to know your family history. You know, that because right if you know your family history, you know, some things are going to come. Or they may not come. Okay, let's say they don't come. But there's a great possibility that they may come. So you need to have those conversations. So just like you're having conversations about grandma's diabetes, or, you know, hey, grandpa, he had a heart attack. And so, you know, we may be susceptible to cardiovascular disease. So just like you're going to have those conversations, you have to have a conversation about end-of-life planning. And don't make it like it's a one-time deal. You know, this thing that you do, that you have to do year after year after year. You have an insurance policy. Does somebody know where it is? Do somebody know how much it is? Do you have a planning for, you know, how do you want to be buried? Do you want to be buried? You know, do you want to be cremated? Does somebody know? Are you an organ donor? Does somebody know? Is it written down? You know, your will, the trust, things of that nature. So there's a myriad of things that we have to look at, and we need to look at especially in the African American community, because we just haven't been exposed to this. So this is an opportunity for us to be exposed to it.
No, I just want to piggyback off something he said. And so my mother-in-law passed away September 22nd, 2015. And she had been dealing with pancreatic cancer for a while. And so at the end of her life, of course, there was a lot of different changes in her physical appearance, and she wished to be cremated. And so it made it easier during that time that the siblings, my wife and her sisters and brothers, weren't trying to figure it out and fight over who wants to have a funeral, should mama be cremated, all of this different type of stuff. And so I had to keep that in mind, because my dad just revised his end-of-life planning, and he wanted to meet with me. And me and my dad, we like this, best friends. And so when he opened up the conversation about, you know, son, I want you to, you know, when that day comes, I want you to be the one who takes care of my stuff, and I'm, you know, this is yours. And as that conversation first began, I had to fight back tears. This is my dad, you know what I mean? Like, this was my, you know, I know not everybody grows up with a dad, but this was my superhero for all these years. But now he's 64, and he's got a little limp kind of when he walks, and you start to see, like, none of us beat Father Time. And so I had to think back on to 2015 when my wife lost her mother and stuff, and the things that her mom did at least ease some of the bickering while you're grieving, or the confusion, or trying to figure things out during the grieving process. So I'm actually very grateful to my dad for his proper planning, and it actually made me, as his son, want to do even more planning for my children, because death doesn't always come in old age, unfortunately. And so making sure that, you know, because I have a daughter that just finished her freshman year of college, and I have a 9-year-old as well. So I want to make sure that I have everything together for them.
I think it's really good that you are like you mentioned, that he's done the work early in your 20s, because a situation happened that made you want to do it, that motivated you to do it. Because if that probably wouldn't have happened in your vicinity, you probably wouldn't have started till maybe now, which is okay.
Right.
But you just got to start, you know? So, man, that is pretty, I'm learning a lot, because, you know, now you're able to, you're actually breaking a curse within your family, believe it or not, honestly. Because if we line up 10 families right now, I promise you maybe 30% may have that, maybe 30%. There's no facts. I'm just we're not having a conversation, so I'm just kind of just doing an educated guess. 30 to 40% maybe. Can't say half, can't say 70%, because we're not talking about it. If someone passes away, we look on Facebook, we see a GoFundMe. Every time, I said this last episode, I'm tired of seeing it. It looks so tacky. It makes it's almost like an insult to the person that passed away, because it's like, we don't have the funds to pay. And it's like, well, what can we do to break that? So you're breaking it. So hats off to you and your family. You know, like I said last episode, I took out my first life insurance policy as well, and I'm starting to do, and then my folks have theirs as well. And it just makes the conversation a little bit easier, because it allows you to step back and breathe a little bit. So when we can't fight the time, but we know it's going to happen, but we don't know when. However, but it just makes it a lot easier to know that if it does happen, we don't have to scramble and figure out, okay, they got 3 cars, okay, they do, okay. And then you got 3 brothers and sisters that you're arguing with. Then you fighting over the house, the possessions, the materials. So it's like, man, you laugh.
Man, listen.
You want to take it home? Go ahead and wrap it up.
I can't tell you the amount of funerals I've been to that almost turned into full-on brawls, arguing over who's gonna sit in the first limo and who can't sit in the limo and who, you know. Oh man, it's super important for us to get on this. And then, but I think that when it comes to serious topics like this, maybe a mass campaign would be helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even more important than that is the more interpersonal connections. Like, you know, I got my first policy because something happened close to me. But I also would have gotten one if my dad advised me to. You know, maybe he wasn't thinking like that, and he had maybe already had a policy for me that he bought when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, different things like that, because, you know, my dad's a former Marine. But anyway, just getting us to the point where we're able to have these conversations amongst ourselves. An insurance agent might not be able to get my cousin to sign up, but me having a conversation with my cousin who just had a son that's like 1 year old, I can get my cousin to go online or go to office building to meet with an agent to get a policy. So we have to make it. It's cool to have entertainment. We can talk sports, LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, Mike Tyson getting ready to fight again. I don't know why, but what else? And respect to Mike Tyson now. I don't want Mike to see me in the airport and be like, "You was talking trash about me on that Barbers dog." But but yeah, just, you know, making it to where we start to have these conversations, and then also light pressure or reminders, you know,
Accountability.
to push each other.
I don't think we ever even thought about this. When a baby is born, we have a party to get the baby an insurance policy. Not turn my whole life. What? It's gonna cost you $10, $15 a month for the baby, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and so maybe that's where we start, because who was it? Somebody said it some time ago.
You.
I said it. Okay, I can claim it.
You just said it.
On the day that the day that you're born is the first day that you start to die. And so if we think about it that way, we begin to build those policies and put those policies in place, begin to have that conversation. What happens if the baby what's the baby sick? If the baby is sick, you're going to have that conversation. But if the baby is born, you know, 5 fingers, 5 toes, breathing well, you're not having that conversation. But the thing about it is we have to begin to prepare at that moment. And if we can start training the babies, then we can actually, you know, we save a generation. And the generation saves the next generation. You know, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I need to say this, you know, because I'm part of the African American Leadership Council for Compassionate Choices. And this is what we do within the African American community, is to try to help educate us on preparing for the inevitable. So if you're preparing, if you're prepared, then you don't have to go through all of the hoops and things that the mistrust, the fighting that we're going to see at the end. You just have to be prepared.
This wraps the second episode of 4 with Compassionate Choices. And I enjoyed this conversation at the barbershop with these beautiful black men.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
it,
coming
brother.
on.
I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
1, 2, 3, 4.